Good guy, that Mike Garafolo. There's not a nicer guy than the NFL Network's Mike Garafolo. That's why we love talking to him every single week. Mike, and I think it might have been Jamie Erdahl and your friends at the NFL Network who coined the nickname Billy Jeans for Will Levis, which I absolutely love. And this guy wasn't even the backup for the Titans to start the year, and now he's the future of the franchise. And I guess it might be an example of just hard work paying off, Mike?
It's an example of a guy with unbelievable ability and an unbelievable right arm, and the talent that he showed him in the summer now also showing him that he can command things as a quarterback in a regular season game. And that is why Will Levis will be the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans moving forward. Mike Vrabel announcing that. To me, it was blatantly obvious, not just after that Atlanta game, but even that Pittsburgh game where they certainly didn't score as much as they did the week before, and he didn't throw as many touchdowns. But I thought he played really well. I thought he showed some poise. You know, he wishes he could have the last throw that was picked off by Quan Alexander back, but there really wasn't a whole lot of time there. There were a couple times with defenders bearing down on him that he just flipped the ball away to make a play. So, yeah, Ryan Tannehill now will serve as the backup. Will Levis, the second-round pick, who many believe should have been a first-round pick, will be the starting quarterback and the chance to become this team's franchise quarterback going forward. To me, as long as a guy shows you that it's not too big for him and he's not overwhelmed. Malik Willis, when he played for the Titans, that guy looked overwhelmed. Will Levis, the complete opposite. So Levis is the guy for Tennessee going forward.
Speaking of quarterbacks, Mike, I think our friend Luke Wilson said it best on Monday night when he described Aaron Rodgers chucking 55-yard bombs down the field before the game actually started as the actual highlight for the New York Jets on Monday night. That was the most exciting moment of the game. Aaron Rodgers just throwing bombs, and yet his actual return date remains somewhat as clear as mud, would you say?
Well, you heard Derwin James after the game say, when you coming back? And he said, give me a couple of weeks. And I think people thought, well, he's back in 2-3 weeks. And now he's kind of saying, no, he's still a ways away. But you're looking at the possibility of perhaps a return in December. And ideally, the ideal scenario is the Jets are still either in playoff contention or they've clinched a playoff berth already. And Aaron Rodgers is taking them into the postseason. That's ideal. They're going to have to play better than they did the other night. Zach Wilson's going to have to play better than he did the other night. They're going to have to win some games for that scenario to come about. I believe, and this has really not been said all the way to me, but I believe even if the Jets are out of it and Rodgers has a shot to come back and get the medical clearance, I believe he comes back and plays the last 1-2 games, something like that, because this is about Rodgers, a point of pride of getting back on the field for him this year, and who's going to tell him no? That's number one. And number two, he's made it clear he's coming back next year. He's playing again next year. So the chance to get back on the field and instill some confidence in this team that, hey, look how I look just returning from an Achilles injury. Imagine how I'm going to look, and imagine how this whole team is going to look once I'm fully healthy and we get going for the 24 season. I believe, as I sit here right now, no matter what, Aaron Rodgers will be back on the playing field this season. We shall see.
Wow, amazing. I want to stay on the quarterback theme here. Speaking of teams that need a little boost, Mike, the Arizona Cardinals, worst team in the league right now, worst record.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray, former number 1 overall pick, set to make his return this week. What do you think he brings to the table this week for a team that desperately needs a lift?
A little bit of juice, a little bit of excitement, just how I just explained it with Aaron Rodgers. If he can give them the boost going into the offseason about what's to come. This is kind of what Kyler Murray is going to provide for the Arizona Cardinals. It's about him getting some good vibes with this new regime, this new coaching staff, who really has done a great job of building a relationship with him off the field. He had a statue unveiling, and the entire coaching staff flew there this offseason. So we know they're not going to the postseason, but this is about Murray showing that he can still be the dynamic quarterback with his legs. I'm told that when plays have broken down with him even running the scout team, he's been pulling away from guys. Teammates have been oohing and ahhing. He looks like the Kyler Murray of old, so there is the hope that he can give them a shot in the arm down the stretch here. It's an interesting dynamic, though, right? Because the better he plays, the better they have chances of winning games, which could hurt their draft slot. Now, they also have the Texans draft pick, but that one seems to be getting worse by the week with the Texans winning games. So Kyler Murray can play the Cardinals into a situation where they're not going to draft his replacement and say, hey, I'm your guy. Use the draft capital that we have to add elsewhere on the roster and basically set themselves up for 2024 with a quarterback that they can believe in. It's an interesting storyline to watch, and I think he's going to do just fine.
And finally, we're going to get away from the quarterbacks. We're going to talk about a wide receiver. And when we saw Jamar Chase with the Bengals last week, getting that back worked on the sideline, we were worried about that. Now it looks like he's in danger of missing this week's game. But, Mike, is this the type of injury for Jamar Chase that could potentially linger as the season goes on?
It could. I mean, Chase made it seem like with his comments that he was going to be on the sideline watching and say, hey, I got to do whatever I can to support my teammates. Nobody's really ruled him out to me for this upcoming game, and nobody seems to indicate this is going to be a long-term injury, but it is a painful injury. And give credit to Chris Collinsworth, who was calling that game on Sunday and said immediately, as soon as Chase fell and hit his lower back, that guy's going to have a hard time getting out of bed tomorrow. If you're going to call him later in the day. I thought that was a great call by Collinsworth, and he was right. It's a painful deal. But the Bengals want to see how Chase progresses through the week potentially and get that stiffness and soreness to loosen up. We know what he means to this team. We know what he means to Joe Burrow, who has the utmost confidence in him. So the Bengals going to do everything they possibly can to get Chase on the field. We will keep an eye on his status for you as we get through the week.
Mike, how excited are you as I let you go because you've been so good this week? How excited are you about the Thursday nighter matchup, right? You got to be pumped up. Everyone at the NFL Network's got to be pumped up. Bears and Panthers.
I'll be there on the field pregame for the NFL Network with Steve Smith getting ready for Tyson Bagent against a struggling Bryce Young. We'll try to dress this up as much as we possibly can, but you got some young guys in there we want to see. Tune in. There's nothing else on.
There it is. I mean, he sold it perfectly. I'm going to add a little bit to it as we say thanks once again to Mike Garafolo. Remember, Chicago not only has their own first-rounder in the draft, currently third overall, they have the Panthers selection as well. The Bears simply cannot lose this week. There is no losing if you're a Bears fan, and they're 3.5-point favorites according to our friends at FanDuel. Don't forget, after the game, you got to watch myself, Luke Wilson. We will break down this incredible matchup as we follow every primetime NFL game this season.